Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the TripleJump podcast in 2025.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my
Happy
word.
New Year.
Happy New Year.
It's a year.
My name is Peter.
My name is Ashton.
My name is James.
And
Ben is not here.
Ben is not here.
I was just saying before we started that I have never attended a Game of the Year podcast that everyone has been to.
No.
This is our fourth.
This is our
that
fourth
you've
one,
done.
and I've been here every single year.
We can't. Just saying.
Just
you know.
saying.
Yeah, well, watch out for next year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's coming
it's your
for
turn.
me.
Ben has the plops, sadly.
I think he's got whatever Peter had before.
It sounds like
last
it
year.
might be because he was ill yesterday and I think the day before. He sounded a bit coffee on his charity stream.
Mm-hmm.
And then he messaged us this morning. He'd been planning on doing a remote access and being on the laptop like
yeah.
I was.
Yeah.
But he messaged saying, I woke up feverish and covered in sweat,
Yeah,
which is
at
what
like
I
6
did
a.m.,
one
so-
day when I had the bad thing. So
That's just knowing that you're in 2025 now.
Yeah.
That's just normal. I think,
Another
but-
year has passed.
So we'll be doing our Game of the Year podcast today. It's very exciting. We do it every year, and we have got the patrons' Games of the Year as well. We've brought Ben's along. We don't have his reasoning, but I'm sure we can guess.
Yeah. We didn't make them up. He told us what
He
they were.
did tell
we
us
didn't
what
be
they
like, we
were.
think they're these. No. But yes, we've got all that stuff. But before we get into that, there's a very important thing we have to do.
Yeah.
At the beginning of a podcast, James, you only get like one opportunity every year to bring the sponsor along.
Yeah.
So I think you've got it this time.
That's right. Yeah. Well, it was very last minute, and it's a good job I got a special email from the sponsor that's very real.
Minutes
it's,
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, just conveniently come in. So obviously everybody has been talking about this huge platformer all last year.
Yeah.
You've got it's something that celebrates all the best franchises of one of the most successful consoles of all time.
Yeah.
We're talking about the Microsoft one, obviously.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just celebrates all of that sort of stuff that it just celebrates gaming, you know, and it also celebrates gamers and how they react online. And coming up,
I know where this is
2025,
going.
it's Astro Xbot.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Because if you like Xbox, you're an Xbox.
An Xbot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely a real sponsor
Yeah.
that didn't, come to me and like.
So instead of like
The last
a
couple of
little
minutes.
white robot, is it
Yeah.
like an Xbox Series X like column
It's the column, yes.
with arms and legs?
Yeah, it's kind of like well that's the spaceship, you know, because obviously
yeah, the column.
he's running around on that. The actual person is just that really poorly drawn, like the crying memes with the mask in front.
Yeah.
It's one of them, basically.
Right. Okay.
What I'd like to see, I mean, call me
yeah.
crazy here. I'd like to see Sony and PlayStation release a game like that.
Sony ponies.
This Astroni Bony
Yes,
pony. That would be good.
Related to Tony Babaloni.
Yeah, possibly. Is it real, James? Is that
it's
definitely
totally
real?
Sorry, it's not real.
Oh,
I'm very,
shocking.
very sorry. But it could be real. Microsoft, Phil Spencer, pull your finger out.
Oh, I think
Make it
after
happen.
the Game Awards, maybe he's like, we
Yeah.
need something like
my
Astrobot.
God.
yeah.
Where's our Astro
It's-
Xbot?
As he sat
It's
there,
Halo.
not clapping.
And Gears,
hands on
and
knees.
Halo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And cars.
It's not real. That's not a real sponsor. But we do have a very real not video game sponsor, which is our patrons over at patreon.com. And you too can be one of them and get a shout out on the podcast as well by heading to patreon.com/team TripleJump. We'll get to them in a moment or later on, in fact. And also, is there a spider in here? Dead
Don't
Island
know if
2?
Dead
Still
Island.
on
I
it?
think it's too
Where's
cold.
he usually hang out?
It's absolutely freezing today.
I mean, it's the
Should be-
first day back today, and it's a
hidden in the
Thursday.
aircon.
Maybe he's taken Thursday and Friday off
Yeah,
just to
he's
make
not
a
back till
weekend of it.
Monday.
Come back
Yeah.
to his folks' place, you know.
Yeah, that's true. We have a website, TripleJump.mup. You can go there to find all kinds of things. And we have some merch, which you can. I'm wearing some merch right now. So is Peter. You can't buy that.
OMG.
You can't, but this is new as well. I got this specially printed on the company.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
because your
wow.
other one broke.
And it's not even available. I was like, I
shown
just
it off all
mentioned
this
it
time.
saying, oh, it's a shame because I like the burgundy hoodie. And Adam was like, I'll get one printed for you. I was like, oh, really? He said, yeah, it's fine. I was like,
Okay.
it's not on the store. I won't be advertising any of our products. And he was
Yeah.
like, I think we can stretch to a hoodie for you.
Wow.
So.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
Oh, wait, no, this is
very
the
old.
old one.
This
but
is
that is
very, very
available
old, and I
as
don't
well.
think we
You
have
can
this.
wear
This is my
I
old
think
one.
we
It's
do.
all,
Yeah.
it's all
That's all right.
And of
It's all
course,
bitty.
patreon.com/Team Triple Jump. A few things out this week, isn't there, Peter Austin?
Yes, already out. We have every Disney video game ranked from worst to best. It was a 4-hour
Insane.
video. It came out on New Year's Day when everyone was hungover. And so maybe you've already sat and just watched that feeling ill. And maybe you haven't watched it yet. Or maybe,
Watch it again.
Maybe you've only watched a bit of it and then you've, had to go and eat food or something because it takes that long. So
Sure,
make sure you get through all of that.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm sure Alex and Kat, our writer, were probably feeling ill just thinking about it.
Yeah.
And the amount of effort put in, and you guys as well. Wow. what a
Not
what a
me.
vid.
I didn't do nothing.
What a-
And then there's the worst games ever out this week. It's Stealth Force, the War on Terror.
Indeed.
Good, bad?
Not a James edit, that one, I don't think.
Not that I remember.
No.
No, I might have blanked it. It might
are
have been that bad.
senile,
Yeah,
so
that's
it
true.
doesn't
What?
surprise
Huh?
There was a lot going on
Where am I?
before the Christmas break, so
Yeah.
it could have been anyone. But no, that was it was bad. It's worth watching. Good, bad.
Amazing.
Good stuff.
Well, now it is the time to not talk about last year. We're looking forward. We're looking to the future. 2025's here, and that's what we're going to talk about first.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about our most anticipated games of this year. The patrons will also ask what their most anticipated game was, and we have their top 3 most anticipated, starting with Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii.
Best name ever.
Got
It's the
mentioned
best.
multiple times.
what
Took
it
people
says on
like
the tin.
15 minutes to type that title out because it's insane. But yes, Like a Dragon. I've never played a Like a Dragon game.
No,
Me
me
neither.
neither. I know. I think it's Sam in the office of Cultaholic fame. He's a big fan of the Yakuza / Like a Dragon series. It looks insane. It's always one of those where I want to get into it, but there's so many.
There's so much.
So many
Yeah.
games there, but I appreciate the silliness that it brings to the table.
Yeah.
So,
Indeed, yeah. It will probably still be another Like a Dragon game that I do not play, but I can appreciate it from afar. And the trailer was fantastic. So I hope everyone enjoys that.
Next up, James, what was the number 2 most anticipated game of the patrons?
It is the unexpected but not entirely surprising demise of Jacques Duschnozel. No, it's not our Triple Jump game, but
Though that was actually mentioned
It is.
loads.
Yeah.
To be fair.
It is coming out probably this year, hopefully this year.
Yeah.
It's available on Steam, wishlist it now. Just search for Jacques, like spelt in the French way.
Yeah.
I don't know, probably the best way. But the real number 2, second most anticipated, and surprisingly it's only second, is GTA 6. Yeah.
So the fact that
Theft Auto.
the TJ game is also in second, is that because it got an equal number of mentions
Yeah.
as GTA 6?
Oh, that's good
I
then.
mean, I'm pretty pleased with that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
I think-
we're on a par there.
I wonder why they didn't mention it because there's no confirmed release date and we haven't heard anything in
Yeah.
over a year, and it's like maybe it's not actually coming this year. Or maybe people just were like, oh, everyone else will talk about it. There's other stuff. Let me mention this other
it's probably
game.
one of those, isn't it?
It's almost like
someone will mention it.
you can take it as read almost. It's like,
Yeah.
do you even need to write GTA 6 down in this list? It's it's almost number 0, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everyone, it's been one of the most anticipated games for several years at this point. So I'm certainly looking forward to it.
Same.
But just kind of waiting to see more and just get hands on with it. Really.
What do you think the odds are of it being pushed back? I mean, I know Rockstar not necessarily as famed for that. They
Well-
tend to
Crunch.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Unfortunately, but
I mean, we haven't, when we say pushed back, we've got like 12 months of space for this game to be released
Yeah, it's
at
still
this
very
point.
vague, isn't
so,
it? So we don't
even if
know.
it comes out December 2026, they
Yeah.
can still be like, we said 2026.
Yeah.
And it's December 31st, 2025.
I think it will probably still come out this year. That's not to say there won't be a change of date. If in a couple of months' time, they might say, "Oh, it's coming out in August, September," and then they might then put a card out on social media and
the
say it's
classic.
coming out in December or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think probably this year.
Yeah.
We'll see.
And number 1, the most anticipated game for our patrons is Ghosts of Yotai.
Yotai.
Yeah, I always get mixed up whether it's Yotei or not. Ghost of Yotai. I mean, again, not something that personally I'm like absolutely going mad to play, but I can very much see why other people are keen.
Well, this one is actually also on my most anticipated.
Right.
Nice.
I've recently been playing through Ghost of Tsushima and having a fantastic time. And so I'm really excited for the next one. And I also love Erika Ishii, who is the kind of face and voice of the main character. So I'm really excited for that game to come out next year. Well, this year.
This year.
God.
It's the 2nd of January this year. So yeah, I think that's going to be great fun. And those guys make gorgeous games.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
Nice for it to get number one though on our certainly from our
very
patrons
cool.
ahead of GTA 6.
Wow.
yeah. James,
Yes.
what's your most anticipated game / games?
My goodness. Well, it's got to be the unexpected, but not entirely. No, it is. So a couple of smaller ones, and then a really big, obvious one for me, not so obvious maybe for everyone else. But Avowed, very intrigued to see how that, because I think that was pushed back from last year anyway. But yeah, the Obsidian RPG. I'm just hoping that it kind of scratches that sort of Elder Scrolls itch of that, I doubt even Bethesda will be able to recapture that magic. But, they're coming out with a new thing set in, I think, Pillars of Eternity universe thing. So they've already got that world sorted. It looks gorgeous. I don't know how well it's going to go down, but yeah, hopefully so, hopefully it does the trick. GTA 6, I mean, again, as goes without saying in that case, if indeed it comes out sooner or later, who knows? It's going to just take the entire world by storm. But my most obvious one is Civilization 7. And
yes.
I am a massive nerd for this series in particular. That sort of 4X strategy genre. It's the main one. It's the big one. I've put an ungodly amount of hours into this series, and I think like probably thousands across all of them, probably close to that on Civilization 6, the most recent one. They're doing some exciting changes. They're doing a thing for the first time ever. They changed the civilization. They split it up into like 3 eras, so you can change your civilization for each era. And lots of the fan base were, it was controversial. They were up in arms about it, but it looks like a very exciting change and could, there's a bunch of other exciting things. I've just been lapping up every bit of details that they've put out so far, like pre-release details. So looking forward to that. So
Nice.
That's my big one now.
Nice. Well, I know that Ben isn't here, but I feel like we do share at least one anticipated game for next year.
Yes.
That being Borderlands 4. It was well documented that me and Ben are Borderlands, what's the word? Forgivers? No,
apologists.
Apologists,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
I was and this isn't the right word. Apologists in lots of ways. I love the Borderlands game, even when they're bad. So I'm quite excited for the next one. We've kind of got glimpses at it. It's seemingly trying to do something a little bit different with the story, so that's exciting. So hopefully whenever that comes out, because we still haven't got a release date for it, even though it's meant to come out this year. It will be
spoil it.
Yeah,
ahead of time,
maybe.
I think.
It will be good. So I'm hopeful for Borderlands 4. And then, of course, I mean, I didn't even write it down because GTA 6 is GTA 6, isn't it?
Yeah.
But there's probably going to be like indies that will appear over the next few months that will be right up my street. But right now, kind of none of them are super like, I'm really excited for this specific game next year, unlike the last few years. So maybe I'll see some as we come out for the next few months of launching. But right now,
Well, I've got one that you might think about. I've gone for
yeah?
quantity over quality, so I won't talk at length about any of these. Obviously, GTA 6. Personally, Indiana Jones on PS5, because I've not yet had the pleasure.
Of course, yeah.
It's either a most anticipated or an honourable mention, which we'll get to in a moment, for a game that I've not actually played. Split Fiction. That's exciting.
Oh, yeah. That did look very good, actually.
Can't wait for that.
and the Overcooked one that's like a similar split screening situation.
Oh, yeah. That was... I forgot about that.
I think it's called Stage Fright.
Yes.
Stage
That
Fright.
was it,
Yeah.
yeah.
Also, Little Nightmares 3, a sequel to a series that I love. And in a similar vein, Reanimals, which is what Tarsier are doing now. So they're the original developers of Little Nightmares.
Yes, I forgot that
they've moved on.
I forget that they're two different games.
Yeah, Little Nightmares is no longer under Tarsier, but they're doing Reanimals, which had that scary zombie pig on it. Also, I think we've got a year, but not a date for Fable. I mean, I'm intrigued by that. Atomfall looked good. That one set in the UK. But again, we've not seen very much of it, so I'm just sort of waiting to see more of that. And then also, I've never played Jedi Power Battles on PS1, which everyone...
That's out this month, isn't it?
I think it is. And everyone from the era tells me how good it was. And they're like, oh, you've played Jedi Power Battles, haven't you? Because I'm a Star Wars fan. Like, I haven't, actually, so looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Wow. That was nice, wasn't it?
It was.
Lots to look forward to.
Indeed.
Hopefully.
Much to think about.
Next up, we're going to talk about the games that didn't quite make our top 5 and/or were not applicable to be added into our top 5. Games didn't come out this year, or games that aren't fully released yet, all kinds of things. So, should we start with Peter? What are your on-mens?
Well, again, I shoved Indiana Jones in here as well, so that it's got full mentions from me. Can't wait to play that. It's been a good year for video game preservation, at least games that I was a fan of anyway, growing up. So Tomba Special Edition I really enjoyed, which, I mean, was barely even a remaster. It essentially was just a port, but they threw a bit of extra stuff in there. Toy Story 2 on PS5, Phantom Menace movie adaptation. I've not even played Soul Reaver yet, but that's come out too, and that has been remastered, I think, rather than remade. So that's all very good. I've given separate space for Tomb Raider, the remastered trilogy, which I had a lovely time with. Probably too much of a good thing. I didn't play all of it, and Tomb Raider games are quite long, it turns out. But, you know, I just sat and listened to podcasts and did puzzles and shot gorillas and had a really nice time doing that. And then also yeah, indeed, Rip Harambe.
A current meme.
2025 Rip Harambe. And then finally, Dragon's Dogma 2, which again was, certainly in my case, very much too much of a good thing, in that it was objectively a very good game, I thought. Very beautiful, fun to play, but just like with the first one, a massive world with so much to do and too much stuff in my inventory, and I was just a bit overwhelmed, but not because there was anything wrong with it, other than there being a lot of it.
That was the big controversy, wasn't it? It was like, kind of unrelenting in its vision.
Yeah.
Same as the last one, I guess.
But very pretty, great presentation, and really good gameplay. So.
Yeah.
What about you, James?
Nice. I've written down quite a few. I'll try and get through them fairly quickly. But
Flippin' heck, you've got your own list.
Yeah, I've got
there.
20 pages worth. So Age of Mythology Retold.
That's on mine as well.
Yes, amazing. Oh, it's such a great throwback to what is a lost era now. No more RTSs. Bring back the RTS.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hadn't played the original, but I big fan of that sort of that genre, that classic sort of genre, and yeah, it just seemed really fun, and it was a surprisingly long campaign as well. Like really, and
it looks good too.
And just gorgeous.
And
like it was kind of remade, but it kind of still has that original nostalgic, nostalgic vibes there. In a similar sort of vein of captures that nostalgic essence, but really modernized well. Silent Hill 2 remake.
Whoa, I'm surprised that hasn't made your top 5 actually.
Genuinely, yeah. It was really close. I almost did put it in, and honestly, well played, Bloober team, because nobody gave them any credit, and they've done very well there. Just a great retelling of just an absolute cult classic there, and I think it was amazing. Just really, really anxiety inducing, really unnerving, even when it's not super scary. It's still just got the tone, the tone is so spooky.
We might hear a bit more from that game a bit later on.
Quick shout out for Manor Lords. I didn't play much of it, but it's fantastic medieval town builder. Just very beautiful, and from one dev as well, super impressive. Also from just a single developer, Animal Well was another one that was going to be in my top 5 because I really had a fun time on that. Stunning, Metroidvania, very, very sort of freaky, haunting atmosphere with the pixel art. sort of overgrown, like freaky looking animals, but also some like modern things like telephones and other gadgets. And it's such a weird vibe because it doesn't tell you anything. And yeah, that's what makes like the puzzles so ingenious and everything like that. So many secrets. I feel like I only found out recently that apparently you can go back and replay it and do discover like twice as many secrets. There are finishing the game once is about not even halfway through experiencing the whole game. So it's one of those sort of things. Very good. Balatro, again, or Balatro, however you're saying it. Fantastic. I get the hype. I haven't played it enough to put it in my top one, but it is just, I get why everyone's sort of banging on about it. Being quite a fan of like sort of roguelike, and I don't mind cards as much as some people. I know it's a taboo subject here, but it's original cards though. It's not gimmick.
At least
cards.
it's a
the
card
cards.
game. It's not a third person RPG action adventure game, and there are cards.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
slightly different.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So yeah, super dangerous for productivity, that game. I'd say, yeah, just pure like ingenious design. And yeah, a couple of shout outs for games not from this year. So Sea of Thieves, I apologize, I was not familiar with your game. I did not, I didn't give it enough time of day when it first came out. And I think also because, it's had many years to sort of build on it. It's just it's an experience I've not seen other games do, in that it's quite obtuse in a way, and, everything's very sort of deliberate, and you have to physically manage your ship, and it's quite, long form in a way, but the sort of player-led experiences where you come across other people, and, half the time, yeah, they are going to be dicks because you're playing online, but half the time they're just messing around or friendly and giving you extra stuff. It's incredible, like so many weird stuff. I had like somebody disguise, like hide themselves, apparently this is a popular thing, hide themselves on my own ship, and then I was like, where's my ship gone? Why is it sailing off over there? And then I see someone walking on it, and it was like, in that split second, it became a horror game. I was like, no, what? Huh? So yeah, that was really fun. And also shout out for Age of Wonders 4, which is another 4X strategy similar to Civ, fantasy thing. Just a lot of cool customization. It's something that I think came out last year. The year before last, 2023.
2023.
But yeah, highly recommend that one as well. So that's me.
I normally end up throwing in a game or two
Yeah.
from the previous year, and I don't think I've done that this
Yeah.
year. I don't think I've played anything, as far as I can remember, from an earlier year, apart from stuff that's been
Yeah.
re-released and remastered.
Well, apart from Spyro, but that's pretty much always
Hey,
going to
that's
be.
well, yeah,
isn't it?
I
Come
mean,
on.
that
No, I
played
know
for
what
the
you
first
mean.
time.
I'm
Yeah, I've not discovered anything this year
Yeah.
from previous years, which is unusual.
Yeah, I have a few. Age of Mythology Retold is one of them.
it's
I had a great fun with that game. I also really enjoyed Fabledom, which is a city builder, but it's set in a medieval fairy tale land. I had a great time playing that game.
Yeah, it looks nice.
Also out this year, but it's not quite cracking my top 5 for, I feel like, moral reasons. I can't put a live service game in my top 5 games, and especially a gacha game, even though I'm obsessed with it, is Infinity Nikki.
It's Nikki.
I knew it.
She's here forever and ever. I actually haven't played it much since Christmas because I couldn't get my dailies over Christmas because I wasn't at home.
No.
And then I was like, I've missed out on this whole event because I wasn't here. And then I haven't gone back to it since they've done the new update because I've been playing other stuff, which I'll get to later on.
Outrageous.
Not from this year. Dave the Diver came out
Oh,
2023,
what a good shout,
and
yeah.
that game is great.
It's so
And
good.
the gameplay loop is fantastic. Fully recommend. Same with Cult of the Lamb. I played that a lot this year and had a great time with that one. But the thing I've played most recently and been enjoying a lot is Ghost of Tsushima, which again didn't come out this year, but has been such a lot of fun and is such a beautiful game. And yeah, lovely. Fun. I'm not going to talk about them too much now because we're going to talk about them in a minute. But other ones from this year that haven't made my top 5 are Indiana Jones and also Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. But we will talk about that later. I am certain.
I've just thought of one as well. Lethal Company deserves an honourable
Oh
mention.
yeah, that's true.
yeah.
Had a good time with that.
Lethal Company has been a lot of fun.
It looks
this year.
insane. Yeah.
Well, before we get into our top 5 and your top 5, we have to thank our podcast producers They, if you want to guarantee a shout out every single week, then become a patron at the podcast producer level and get your name read out, just like. Go for
Tom Howells.
Oh.
Sorry.
Michael Pendlebury.
Hugh Joss,
Nice. Andy Scott.
Chip Thompson's Thumbs.
Eric Siu,
Blake Thomas.
Nicole Hansen.
Great Giggity,
GY Goliath.
Gabrielle Philippink.
and big money, Bobby, Vegas. Thank you,
Excellent.
podcast producers.
We've had
Thank you
Harambe
very much.
and Airhorn today
yeah,
already.
the energy of 2025 is
We're
off to a
great
crazy start.
Yeah.
Absolutely smashing it.
Well, should we begin our top 5
Oh
countdown?
my God, it started.
It's time for Game of the Year.
beginning.
Yeah.
5.
Let me tell you what the patrons voted as their number 5. This year it is Metaphor ReFantasio. Any of you played it?
I
No.
have.
No?
I
well,
have.
luck. Oh, you
a
have?
lot.
Good.
Oh.
That may come up later. But
Oh,
yes.
okay, well-
I know. I'm as surprised as you are,
Yeah.
honestly.
In case you don't know anything about it, and me and Pete can't talk about it, so let's read what the patrons had to say
Yes.
about it, shall we? Jams?
Yes, Stephen Skodes says. Stephen Skodes, sorry, says Atlas
That's
is
a
brand
real
new
throwback
RPG.
calling him
I know,
Skodes.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
2022
I don't
calling.
know where that's come from. Yeah, well, we're getting all the classic hits. Atlas's brand new JRPG was an absolutely incredible adventure. Although there are some similar gameplay mechanics from Shin Megami Tensei and Persona, the game has so many incredible aspects to it that help it stand out. From the characters, setting, story, and music, Metaphor has been an incredible journey to experience. It's a beautifully crafted story that takes the player on a big adventure to capture the throne.
Wonderful. Dan Scott also said Atlas at their absolute best. Narrative and world-building masterclass on display here.
And then Jacob Jardel said, I know, another Atlas game, but let's face it, they knocked it out of the park with this one. It does a great job of retaining the feel from games like Persona while adding its own unique twists to it. The story is equal parts familiar, and the novel is parts familiar and novel in the best ways. Combat encounters, dungeon crawling are fluid. The soundtrack is amazing, and the experience overall sucks you in and has you strategizing deeply for hours on end.
Very good.
Amazing. Shall I tell
Fully
you what
agree.
my number 5 is?
What's your number 5, Ashton?
Well, I've cheated a bit
Oh,
because it's 3 games actually.
my
What?
I felt like they were
not your
all
top
a draw
7.
in my heart.
That's
and
illegal.
I thought I'd smash them all
Ref.
together.
Okay.
So starting off with the Plucky Squire, I had a great time with that
Oh,
game.
yeah.
I forgot to have
It has a
that.
lot
Yeah,
going
yeah.
for it, and like it's a very unique game in how it plays. My only complaint with it is the fact that it's not as fluid going in and out of the book as they made it look like in the trailers. However, I had a fantastic time with that game and really enjoyed myself. Also, the other ones are Botany Manor, which is a really fantastic puzzle game. It's an indie where you are playing as a botanist and you solve puzzles to help make the flowers grow by finding magazine articles, looking at posters, kind of finding various letters and stuff around the house to help you figure out how to make all the flowers grow that are kind of dotted around the place.
Lovely.
It's just a lovely time, and it's really well thought out, and the puzzles are both simple to find if you are looking in the right place, but also challenging enough where you're not just being able to like brute force it if you felt like you could. And the last one I want to talk about is Tiny Glade. This game is beautiful and brilliant and clever and so like peaceful to play. If you don't know, you basically are just given a tiny glade, a field which can be kind of like a spooky field or a springtime or like autumn or various different kinds of themes, and then you just build whatever you feel like building. There is no goals, there is no like challenge to it unless you do the daily challenge, which is just a little suggestion of a title and then maybe a small building that they've started you off on, and you just place square buildings or circle buildings, and you can adjust the height and the width and the, I'm going to say girth, but I don't know why. And there's a lot that you can adjust with them. You can add windows that will stick together to form different windows, doors that will get bigger that if you want them to be double doors, you can do that. I love how when you build houses, the nature around the building naturally makes it look like the building's been there for a long time. Like the vines will creep up. If you put a window, the vines will go round the windows. And
It's
I
really
like
smart,
it's so smart.
Yeah.
Like the hedges will go along the sides of like buildings that you've put down, or like little patios. You can have hedges along the side of them. There's like little decor that if you build a house, it might just put a wheelbarrow just in the corner to be like somebody lives in this house, and it's beautiful. And it's just a really lovely time, and you can pat the sheep and the ducks, and if you remove the floor from underneath the sheep, he gets a little umbrella and drifts slowly down to the bottom. I just think that like they're 3 games by smaller developers who that have like really been just joys to play. Like I know we talk a lot about AAAs on our top 5 normally, but I just wanted to bring these 3 along as my like in my top 5 because I had just a fantastic time playing all of them, and they really do showcase different things and what indies can be. So fully recommend. Botany Manor is on Game Pass. Tiny Glade costs like £12, and the Plucky Squire is on PlayStation Plus. So if you want to give any of them a go, I fully recommend doing so because it's great fun. And Tiny Glade is just brilliant. If you like The Sims, then you're in with Tiny Glade.
The first one of those that I played was that one with like the little multicolored houses in the sea when the little seagulls come and land on.
Townscaper?
Yeah, something like that. I
Something
can't remember
like
what it's
that.
called. Yeah, but
I know the one you mean though.
yeah, which is exactly the same way you place stuff.
Similar sort
You
of
know,
vibes, yeah.
yeah. There's no like you don't do resource management. You just place buildings, and then it'll string washing lines between across an alleyway and make a little garden. And that was the first kind
I
of
do
time
love
I
how they-
encountered that genre, and I was like,
That's really
this
cool.
is lovely. Yeah.
Excellent.
Who wants to go next then?
I can go next. I mean, maybe I should because my number 5 is also a sort of an indie-ish. I don't know if it's strictly indie because I can't think who published it, and I should find out. But certainly, it's a smaller project,
Should I
not
find
AAA.
out for you?
Sure, if you like. It's a surprising entry, almost honourable mention. But Nico DeRico, I had such a nice time with it that I thought, you know what, I'll stick it in at number 5. I think it's just so nice to see the mascot platformer genre doing so well this year. Obviously, with Astrobot's success, which I'm sure we will come to in time on today's podcast. But, also smaller games like Nico DeRico just kind of coming out of left field. It was just announced at Summer Game Fest, I think, or something like that. It was at a fairly big event. Just a trailer ran, and people were like, "Oh, what's this Crash Bandicoot Donkey Kong looking thing?" And then it just came out, and honestly, the music particularly was some of the best I've heard in video games this year. It's such a nice soundtrack. Similarly, the presentation, visually speaking, is just very charming, very colourful, lots going on, lovely level design. And the gameplay loop or the general sort of gameplay style is kind of a really nice mixture of just simplistic mechanics because it is just a 2.5D side scroller, or sometimes you go into the depth as well, but kind of combined in quite a challenging way at times. So I mean the Donkey Kong Country DNA is very clear to see. I mean there's a minecart level and that you ride on animals, and it's got all of those things.
Just from like some of the same devs that maybe did a new studio.
I can't remember if I don't.
It's by,
or at least sort of
it was
inspired.
developed by a studio called Via Games and published by Knight's Peak, but it doesn't really say anything about it having kind of.
Interesting.
It was certainly
The
inspired.
composer is
Yeah,
David
it's from
Wise.
inspired.
Yeah, and that's
who is
the
obviously
one bit of crossover is that the composer
is it?
was the Donkey Kong Country
Oh, very good,
composer.
very good,
Yeah,
yeah,
so and it
yeah.
really does show.
Yeah.
I don't think there was any crossover in terms of the actual development team, but yeah, the inspiration is very clearly there, as is the Crash Bandicoot inspiration. And
It was first shown at the Future Gamer Show Summer Showcase. That's where we first saw it.
right. Okay. Yeah. It's not flawless. There are some awkward gameplay moments that don't quite work out, and some of the voice acting is a little bit off, but most of it's quite good. The cutscenes are nice and kind of make up for that. So it's not a perfect game, but I think I still had to give it some recognition for the fact that a genre that is certainly very dear to me, if not to everyone else, is being kept alive, not just by the big guys like Astro, but, little projects like this too. And I hope we just see more and more of it as time goes on.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, me too. Yeah. Hopefully it's, I wasn't even aware of the game until I saw that you were going to stream it. And I was like, this looks really delightful.
Yeah.
So, hopefully more, revival of another classic genre. I think there was the ukulele like
that
like
came out,
something.
Re-release of some description.
It's, more stuff like that, please. My number 5 is also I'm pretty sure this is an indie game as well. So
I think it is from.
I just can't remember who made / published
it. Look it up.
But yes, researcher. This is Pacific Drive, and
Pacific Drive.
I haven't played this one, but it's been on my radar for ages.
Honestly, it does look such a unique vibe.
Developed by Ironwood Studios and published by Kepler Interaction.
Okay, so it's maybe not like officially indie, but it adopts that sort of midway point, double A maybe.
It doesn't really mean quite what it used to make.
Yeah, exactly. It's that sort of thing. But yeah, honestly, it's just like the vibes were impeccable. It's a unique concept that I don't think we've seen done before. It's like a little bit horror, it's a little bit survival, but it's not survival horror. It's nothing like that. It's you're driving this cursed old jalopy of a car. It's like broken down, run down, and you're trying to drive through this anomaly-ridden zone. And again, it's like got that real sense of mystery of what is going on, and that really drives the sort of that compelling nature of like, well, you want to find out what's going on and also survive these weird things, and it really sort of pushes you to go through and explore these things. And at first, I think it's one of those where it's tailored that sort of survival crafting upgrade sort of elements really well. Like it's really well balanced where you're never that far away from upgrading another thing, like getting some extra LED panels on your doors to, avoid this sort of thing, or getting some big sort of jump pad abilities to jump over some weird like anomalies like buzzsaws cutting through the road, or these pillars that just pop up out of nowhere. There are just so many like unusual things, and you're just sort of thinking like, man, what is going on here? What is going on? It's very, very cool. The car's quirks as well makes things like really, really funny, because the car itself can get these certain, I can't remember what they're called, but yeah, they're quirks essentially, and you need to like diagnose them in between like these runs out into like the more dangerous areas.
It's like Ashton's car.
Yeah,
sometimes
every week a new problem.
Sometimes you're like, hey, why is the windscreen wiper going at full speed when it's not even supposed to be on? Yeah,
I think it does very hilarious things like where you'll if you have to like use your windscreen wiper, suddenly you'll start honking. Or the
headlights
literally my car.
That's exactly.
But it's actually, if you want to use your windscreen wiper, you have to use your indicator. So
yeah, it's if you reverse, suddenly your bonnet goes up and it won't go down again.
Mine doesn't do that.
Veers heavily to the left. There's all sorts of weird things going on, and just the atmosphere is so unique and so interesting.
I like that the quirks thing adds to kind of, although you have the horrible atmosphere of it, it still kind of adds the charm of like, it's my old car.
Exactly, and that's
like we've all had, whether it's a car or a house or something in our life where only you know how to get the best out of this inanimate object.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. Yeah, I think it really captures that vibe as well. And it's like, I think there was another game as well, but I can't remember what it was called a while ago, where I think it might have just been called Jalopy. And like you're sort of fixing up your own. But it was more of that, like in the something, car sim, crappy car sim sort of thing. And it's kind of those sort of vibes where, it does remind you of something that, is dear to dear to your heart. And by the end of it, because you've fixed it up so many times and replaced the doors and the tires and upgraded all these things, it genuinely feels like your car, and you feel terrible when it gets beaten up, and then you race to like escape because in each of these zones you get a limited amount of time and you have to escape. And so, again, it feels very well balanced there in that it feels like you only just make it every time, and that's really clever. So yeah, I would say it's not absolutely perfect. I'd say like maybe the story doesn't quite explain enough towards the end, but then I'm quite a fan of those sort of mystery things where you don't need all the explanations to get a good time out of it. And it does get a little bit grindy towards the end, depending on how much you put into it, really. But yeah, fantastic. Really, really had a good time with that. So yeah,
stunning. Peter, what was Ben's number 5? The slacker.
Ooh.
What's he doing? Is he actually ill, or is he at home right now playing Call of Duty Black Ops 6, in parentheses, campaign and zombies?
What?
Yeah.
That's what he said.
Specifically not the multiplayer.
No.
Not the stinky multiplayer.
He's not here, but I have played both of those modes. I've not played the zombies nearly as much as him. He is obsessed with it.
Multiplayer, unfortunately.
Yeah, he's obsessed with the zombies mode. He thinks it's great. And you know what? Love that for him. But specifically talking about the campaign, this Call of Duty campaign is by far the best one in recent memory. Like, it's so fun. It's so like every mission is completely different, and you never really feel like it's like, all right, we're slogging through a brown battlefield again, like flipping heck. It's just really good. There's some of the levels that are in it are like on their own just such a standout piece of like gaming content. Like it feels fun to play. There's a specific level that Ben was really excited for me to get to, and as soon as I got to it, I was like, this is the one. Like there's lots of like kind of not nods, but like you can see other games that have kind of maybe inspired certain levels, and it's just really fun and just clever. The story's like fine. Like I think the story is interesting, but it's definitely
as much as it can be sort of it takes weird turns, right?
It's like it's an espionage kind of. Essentially, you're playing as Casey, I think is his name. They literally never call him by his name. And then like there's all this stuff going on. Someone at the Pentagon is like doing something bad, and you're trying to figure out who it is that's the baddie. And then there's also this stuff going on with your character that's like something's happened to him, and you're never quite sure if he's what he's seeing is like real or not, or if it's just like he's drugged up or something. But yeah, it's really interesting. You've got like a casino level where you're trying to rob a casino. You've got a kind of underground bunker level where it's all very Art Deco, and that's very cool. And it's just a lot of fun. Like they've done a really good job. I think they had a lot to make up for in terms of campaign when it came to Black Ops 6. But I think it's really good. And the gunplay is really fun as well, and like feels satisfying to play. Zombies itself, like there's now 3 maps. I've only played the original 2. I don't personally love the way that the zombies maps are formatted, because they kind of almost half have like a goal, especially one of them is like, get to the church. And you get to the church and it's like, cool, now you just got to survive until you get bored or die.
Zombies has changed so much since what I remember it being. Like I spent far too many hours with him mates playing COD Zombies.
But I know that Ben's been playing a lot of it online with friends and having a great time, because he's somehow the jammy bugger gets like the ray gun every single time and just survives till like
he's one of those.
round 40. But yeah, it is a great game. It's a really good like step forward for Call of Duty. I think they needed something good for them, and I think Xbox also needed something to
breathing a sigh of relief
under their belt that was good. So I think
I bet they're cursing the fact that it's not exclusive to them. We kind of
got away with it this time.
We have to share this.
But it is a very good Call of Duty game, and if you've been put off for like a little while because the other campaigns haven't been that good, as someone who's played some of the older campaigns, this one's really fun. I fully recommend. And so does Ben. Nice. So it's number 5. Next up then, number 4.
Oh, well, number 4 is, according to our Patreon listeners, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Interesting that it's low. It's as low as 4.
Yeah, it's lower than I thought, actually, because I know there's, amongst the fan base and even in the office, big Final Fantasy VII fans specifically.
Well, it didn't make it onto my top 5.
Oh, wow. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, spoiler warning.
I'll tell you about it later.
Outrageous. What do people have to say about that?
Selene Sonata says, so much of this game just felt like passion exploding on the screen. The combat, the characters, the mix of wacky and serious intertwining. Everything about this game just keeps me hooked, unable to release the controller. Okay, with one obvious exception, Chadley is the final boss of part 3, right?
I hate that guy with a burning passion. Chip Thompson Thumbs says, I had some big issues with its tedious side quests and inflated runtime, but it's a new Final Fantasy VII game. There's no way it couldn't be in my top games of the year.
Darashiva said, honestly, the only full game I've played from 2024, from the year of 2024, that deserves mention. Great continuation of the remake with a vast, interesting world to explore, great character development for the main cast, and a really well-told story, as well as a fantastic battle system. The main downside was the excessive number of mini-games. I heard this was a thing. The excessive number of mini-games that hurt the pacing if you focused on them for too long. Some were great, Queen's Blood. That's the card game, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. But a lot felt superfluous and pointless, as if the developers just decided to throw in every idea they had and see what sticks. Still, that one issue aside, easily one of my favourite games of the generation so far.
Lovely. Ashley Smith says, Square Enix definitely take a more is more approach, and I spent a good bit of the endgame confused and generally ready for it to be over. But that said, I thought it was beautiful, and I enjoyed the nearly 100 hours I spent on it. If I never have to herd Moogles again, it will be too soon.
And Brett Moore said, can you have too much of a good thing? Square Enix didn't think so and gave us one hell of a JRPG. I'll be playing it again on hard mode to justify my irresponsible decision to buy a PlayStation 5 Pro.
Sort of a common theme running through some of those, which is there was a lot of it, but I did enjoy it.
So good.
I spent a car journey down to my parents over Christmas talking with my boyfriend about this because I was trying to figure out my top 5 games of the year, and he was like, well, would Final Fantasy VII be in it? And I was like, I don't know if I can give it a spot on my top 5 because despite it being the game that I think I played the most this year, and like I say, it's absolutely gorgeous, and like the voice acting's brilliant. It plays like 95% of the time really well. Queen's Blood is good fun, and like it is wacky and very, very like silly in places, but it just didn't know when to stop. Is one of my issues, and also, I still don't really know what happened in that game. I don't really understand it. I've never played the original, so I don't know if I'm missing some context because I haven't played the original game. I felt a little bit the same after Remake because the end of it just takes an absolute turn into the left field and you've got absolutely no idea what's happening. Suddenly there's ghosts everywhere and you just have to be like, okay. And I kept being like, was this in the original? I'm being informed, no, it was not. I had a few issues with it in that pacing was a huge kind of issue for me. Like, the story felt secondary to all of the guff that they put in. But I don't want people to think I didn't like it because I did like the game. It just had, I think, a few too many issues for me to be like, the good outweighed them, if that makes sense. I still have no idea what happened. And I feel like I need to watch a video of someone explaining to me what happened and why these people are doing what they're doing, because I don't get it. I don't understand it. And also Chadley is one of the worst video game characters to ever have existed.
Great name though. Big fan.
You meet him in the
Not knowing him at all, big fan.
Chad.
In the remake, you're like, okay, this kid's kind of annoying. Yeah. This weird little robot kid, kind of annoying. Whatever. I can just ignore him if I want to. And in the second game, it's like, what if Chadley has your phone number and calls you all the time? Yeah, wants to go bowling. And then he's got his new little girlfriend as well. So like, she's a bit less annoying, but they have this whole arc the whole way through of like them arguing, and you think maybe there'll be a resolution at the end. No, they just keep arguing the whole way through, and you just have to keep listening to it until the end of time. And then Chadley will be like, around here is a shrine to an ancient god that no one's found. And then you just walk round a corner through a cave where the opening is massive. And it's like, I think someone probably found this before, Chadley, because it's absolutely huge and massive.
Come on, Chadders.
And at one point he gets sucked into a board game.
Oh my
Does
God.
it tell you
this
why?
guy is the main
No.
character. He's the main character.
You're probably
He's
just
the final
jealous he
boss.
gets sucked into a board
Yeah.
game.
That's true.
You love board games.
I do love board games, but yeah, I
He
just
Jumanji'd.
it's very. There's a lot in that game, and I wish there was a bit less.
Can't wait to play both the like. I genuinely wanted to make time for the remake and Rebirth, but
You need,
I
like,
knew it was so much
2
time.
months.
Yeah, it was such a time commitment.
I think it took me 65 hours to finish Final Fantasy Rebirth, and that was like not with me finishing all of the mini games. Like that was me like doing the mini games to a level one what I had to, and then ignoring.
You got to be strict for yourself. Is what I'm hearing.
Exactly.
Okay.
Anyway, enough about that for now. Should I tell? Well, I went first last time. Do you want to go first?
James?
This time, James?
Yeah, I'll go first. So
Number 4.
my number 4 is a very short game by massive contrast. It's, oh, thank goodness you're here. The most Yorkshire game that has ever Yorkshired. It's, oh my God, I had such a lot of fun with this. And okay, so it's very hard to nail down like comedy in video games, right? It's very sort of subjective. Oftentimes, if they lean into gamer culture, it just ends up being cringy. And Borderlands 4, like the people are saying, like, oh, it's not going to be as much toilet humor, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Like, it's very difficult. And this is probably not going to be for everyone because it is quite sort of specific. It's very weird, very surreal.
Surreal, yeah.
Yeah, it's got that surreal. But
Surreal
also
is
very
like
British.
the best word for it.
Yeah. British surrealism. It's kind of like Monty Python with some Wallace and Gromit. And also it reminds me of like mid 2000s like Flash animation stuff. Like this is very weird. And yeah, it hit home for me perfectly. I've never laughed this hard at a game. It's so ridiculous. Keeps on surprising you every like few minutes. The art style's like fantastic as well. So like you're plopped into this world where like there are so many little details even in the art and the environment where I knew it was a special one when I saw like some graffiti taking a piss out of Margaret Thatcher. So that was always good. Rip Milk's Natural or whatever. And yeah, I thought it was a really, really well put together game. Like that just non-stop like ridiculous gags, and you don't know what to expect apart from that you're gonna have to go through the chimney again.
Yeah.
Like if I review
That
played
poor man's chimney.
that poor man keeps on having to clean his chimney. He just doesn't know.
I felt really bad.
It was so
when I had to
fun.
go through it again, I was like, oh, he's just cleaned
yeah.
his house again. This is going to be his 13th reason.
I felt it was quite bad. We gave that man
Probably about
nervous disposition.
I think about 50% of what I've seen on social media is about that man and his chimney. So.
Yeah.
It's very good. Yeah, and also like it's one of those games where like very simple controls. You just walk around and the only thing you can do is slap. So props to a game that only allows you to communicate or do anything via slaps. So,
Yes.
yeah, very good. Very good.
We'll go next if that's okay.
Yeah.
My number 4 is Super Mario Party Jamboree. That game is I finally won for the first time the other day.
Hey!
It's taken me 6
So happy
months
for you.
of my life, and I finally won. And
You trained all your life for this moment.
truly this game is great.
Congrats.
Looks great. It plays great. It's kind of I still have some qualms with it in terms of like some of the mechanics within the actual Mario Party itself. For example, I don't think that your Jamboree buddies come hang out enough. I think there should be more of them in the game, but that's fine. I just like the way that it plays. The mini games are more often than not are quite good fun. My favorite ones are the motion ones, which you play with the Joy-Cons. I think those are just great. And I wish that there was more of those, but I also, when I started playing this game and even now, I don't have 4 Joy-Cons. So there was a bit where you had to turn like the motion games off because we only had like controllers rather than actual Joy-Cons, which I understand is why they can't be more motion games, because otherwise how are we going to play? But I do think it's just great fun. You've got a bunch of different modes as well, in terms of you've got regular Mario Party, you've got the Rhythm Kitchen, you've got Paratrooper, whatever nonsense where you've got to wipe your arms around like you're flapping your wings. You've got Toad's Item Factory, which I quite literally never do. And then you've just got like the mini game island, which has like a bunch of little modes and stuff in there as well. And then you got Bowser's Kaboom Squad, which is weird. And you can only play if you have an online membership, which I said at the time is weird and bad. And even though you can play it offline, you still have to be able to have Nintendo Online, which I think is ridiculous. But I think that game is great. And I love a party game, especially a Mario Party game. And I think it's a really good installment into the series and great fun for a party. Like I would quite happily get Mario Party out at every party I ever go to. I think it's great.
I bloody love Mario Party as well. I can't believe how much stuff they've put in there.
Yeah.
It's surprising because I think the previous couple there were complaints about it being like sparse and there's not much. You know, so yeah,
you can play it single player as well. Like you can play it's got like a single player campaign mode where you wander around
kind of like a story mode.
Sort of. You basically you play as like it's tied to a character. So if you go in it as a different character, you have to start again.
It's a very nice touch. Yeah.
But you basically go through all of the party levels and have to do a bunch of like little quests and find things and play certain mini games and get certain scores in mini games to like get points and stuff for the party that is coming up. They have to do a boss fight. But yeah, it's good fun.
Prepping for a party. So it's just going round Big Tesco.
Pretty much,
Aldi
yeah.
or
But like Mario's holding like all of the party supplies and you have to do
Yeah.
Mario's mini game in order to get him to give you the stuff, But yeah, that is my number 4.
My number 4 is Tekken 8. I have written, this is the best fighting game I have ever played, which is, I mean, that's an important point to make. I will always love Tekken 3 and Tekken Tag and Soul Calibur 2, but I think this is the best one in terms of quality rather than just, based on nostalgia. In fact, to quote our first patron who was talking about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, so much of Tekken 8 just felt like passion exploding on the screen. The combat, the characters, and the mix of wacky and serious intertwining. I think that describes Tekken pretty well, actually. It was so over the top all the time in the best way. Yeah. People are constantly breaking rocks with their fists, and there's visual particle effects happening all the time, crazy cutscenes, and then like suddenly someone's having a fight with a bear, and then it's like the world's going to end, this is really important, and then someone is like just like dancing with a robot or whatever. It's very silly. They
fantastic.
Indeed. They threw in a bunch of extra modes that they could have just gotten away with not including at all, but they just did. Like the weird thing where you create like an Xbox avatar style character and you wander around an arcade and play Tekken against other little avatar characters. So weird.
Astro the Xbot.
Yeah, exactly. And there's like customization in there, and they've not kind of slept on the giving each individual character a little arcade story mode, because I think in Tekken 7 that was kind of left behind, and they were like, oh, here's the important story mode about the Mishima family, that's what everyone cares about, right? And it's like, no, I want like my character who owns the Chinese restaurant, I want to see what happens to his Chinese restaurant. Let me do his story. So I feel like more of a Tekken fan again after certainly the previous entry was pretty lackluster, and actually the past couple really haven't been that great. So I didn't put loads of time into this, in that there's so little time to play games nowadays. It feels like that I played through the story, did some side stuff, had a great time, and put it down. But I have since been back to it for brief periods of time, and I think I probably will be doing that for the foreseeable, and that's no bad thing. I think that's a sign of a quality game if I can just enjoy dipping back into it from time to time. So yeah, really, really good, and I'm looking forward to more Tekken in the future now.
Nice.
Which I wasn't feeling before this one.
Would you say that they've taken it to new heights?
They certainly have, James Jenkins. Oh.
We've started well.
Just read Ben's number 4.
And Ben's number 4 is Dragon Age: The Veilguard. So I'm glad someone sort of mentioned this because you know it's it took up a lot of headlines. Like people were expecting it to be bad, and then it came out and got
people are angry about it.
Well, yeah, there's like a whole
because let me just check this.
Checks notes.
Because it's got pronouns in it.
Pronouns.
I have never used or seen or heard a pronoun in my life. I don't use any pronouns.
We don't believe in pronouns. So there's obviously, you know, a lot of controversy with that.
Yeah.
But, you know, review scores and actual fans of the game, fans of the series, have by and large loved it. And, you know, stupid, pathetic, you know, rage bait discourse aside, it's, you know, well done. Like, amazing work for BioWare to, you know, kind of recover from. People were worried what's going to happen to you know, Mass Effect, and I think it. Again, so I've not played this. In fact, I've played like.
No, I don't think any of us have played this.
Yeah,
Apart from Ben.
Only the first Dragon Age I played a proper amount of, and that was fantastic. But they've changed their style so much each game.
I would assume, you know, not to put words in Ben's mouth, but I would assume that he's enjoyed it because of how much he loves Mass Effect. I remember he mentioned a little while ago that like it was scratching the Mass Effect itch, but like in dragons. And he played a lot of it, I think, over Christmas time. So we haven't actually spoken to him since he's played more of it because that was on his to-do list over Christmas. So I'm glad that it's got a space here. I know that he was enjoying what he had played of it, so I'm glad that he enjoyed even more of it.
I think his first like hour or so when he literally played a tiny bit, and then we did a podcast like the next day or something. He said, I'm not sure. I think I like this. I think I do, but I need to play some more. And then after that, he seems to really start enjoying it. So yeah, it's good. I'm glad it got some representation here because it did deserve it.
Yeah, I've heard the combat's really good, and it's nice to have like decent characters sort of going through that again. So nice.
Well, now it's time for number 3.
Indeed, our patron's number 3 game is Silent Hill 2. So we've already heard a little bit about that earlier on, but we've got some thoughts here.
Annika Brock said, I didn't think Bloober Team would pull it off considering I'm no fan of their other games, but they nailed it. The most important thing is the most crucial cutscenes were pretty much untouched or only slightly tweaked, which is definitely for the best. The combat is better than it looks too, and the atmosphere is pretty spot on.
Absolutely. Dan Scott says, well done, Bloober. You managed to not bleep it up or bloop it up.
Indeed.
You didn't bloop it up.
And Jacko1312 says, never played the original, but this remake makes it clear why the classic is so revered. Possibly the best atmosphere I've ever experienced in a horror game. I felt on edge constantly.
I really need to play this game.
Yeah, it's so
I think it's going to be right up my alley, but I just haven't got around to playing it yet.
Are you guys like aware of? I feel like you're probably aware of like the story.
I know bits and pieces, but not that much.
Yeah,
that's it. It's heavy as well. Even heavier than I thought. I knew vague bits as well when I went into it, and it still sort of had such big impact when you go through it. So definitely.
Feels like a game we could maybe play on the joint stream to replace our Resident Evil exploits.
It's longer than you think. Yeah, I mean, I still haven't finished it. I'm almost surprise. I haven't finished a game that I started years ago.
Well, that's all right. I think it's kind of a shame in a way. Well, I say it's a shame actually. I was going to say it's a shame that they've started on Silent Hill 2 and not Silent Hill 1. But then again, Capcom did exactly the same thing with their remakes. They started with. Certainly with the most recent style of remake, they started with Resi 2, didn't they? And then 3. So it's not like it's not been done before.
5's coming up next. Cowards.
Can't wait.
Well, 6 actually will be there.
I certainly was surprised by how praised this game was. I think we do a list every year of the best games of the year, the worst games of the year, and the most disappointing games of the year. I think this one might be the most undisappointing game of the year. Like
surprising.
Surprising. Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Everyone thought this would be bad because Bloober, but then they were like, no, it's not.
Bloober's been like, shut up, eat this. Have
so
your
good for
nice
them.
spooky sandwich.
Credit where it's due,
That's right.
Should I tell you my number 3?
Yes.
One in.
All right, I'll do it. My number 3 is Star Wars Outlaws. I had a great time with this game. I really enjoyed lots of aspects of it. I have a few qualms. I think most of the things on this list is it's really, really good. I enjoyed it, but it could have been better. But with Star Wars Outlaws, I really like Kay, and Nyx is so cute. 10 out of 10 companion. But I just enjoyed exploring these worlds and these kind of new areas in like a completely different light to how I think we've seen them in other Star Wars games. I really enjoyed Jedi Survivor and whatever the other one was called. Was it just called Fallen Order?
Fallen Order, yeah.
But I really enjoyed that side of seeing the Star Wars universe. But to see it from kind of the underbelly where like you're just kind of just trying to survive and you've got all these kind of slightly dodgy things that you can get involved in and different worlds to kind of explore. I think it's really good. And I think it looked really good as well. All the worlds had their own kind of unique style. You know, you got Snowy Planet and Desert Planet and Jungle Planet and other planet that is kind of a mix of a few of them. Yeah. But yeah, I think it was really good fun. I think that like the only thing I wish was that the kind of clan system was more like developed a little bit. Like if you early on decided to side with the Pikes, for example, it would make it harder for you to side back with the Hutts instead of it just like at the end of the game, you can have all 4 clans on like full happiness, like with you, like relationship wise.
It does feel like they've all got very short memories. It's like if I slighted Jabba the Hutt, no matter how much like good stuff I did for him later on, he wouldn't be my best friend later on.
But a few of them, like a few of the actual story missions, you have to kind of make a big annoying decision for one of the clans. But then like it'll sink you down to maybe the level below. But apart from being really bad a relationship with them and them sending out death squads to you, there's no real benefit to like having everyone kind of at the same level. It doesn't make that much difference. So I do wish that there was kind of a bit more of a dynamic with that in terms of the world that you're in. Maybe there's like certain quests that you can't do because your relationship with the Hutts is bad and you have to play it again and make other decisions. But like aside from that, I think it was a great game. I liked that you could sneak in and out of places really easily. I like that you got kind of to know your like routes around new areas. Like if you were trying to sneak in or out, or if you had a bad relationship, you could find ways to sneak into those areas without being spotted. And yeah, I had a good time playing that. And I think the story was quite compelling and quite fun as well. And yeah, I really enjoyed Star Wars Outlaws. And I think it was a good step from Ubisoft. I do kind of wish it got a bit more recognition and like discussion around it, because I do think it was actually a really good Ubisoft game. But
people maybe judged it before playing.
Maybe because of who made
it. The scores weren't as high as and they were still high and still good. But you know, maybe I'm guilty of that. I looked at it, I was like, okay, but maybe I'll leave it for now. But that makes me want to check it out. For sure,
it is good fun. I fully recommend.
Since the last podcast and the last What We Playing, I've played some more Outlaws, and I have like reached the point now where I'm like, I love this game, and I feel, and I guess I'll talk a bit more about that maybe if it comes up in my list later on. I'm really into it now, and it's to the point where it's that kind of thing where when I'm not playing it, I'm like, I want to go home and play Star Wars Outlaws. So I get it now.
Yeah. What's your number 3, Peter?
Should I do my number 3?
Don't get ahead of yourselves now.
Well, I couldn't not include it, but I didn't want to be so blinded by my love for a game that, you know, I just stick it at number 1 or number 2 without reason. But I did have to give a top 3 place to Beyond Good and Evil 20th Anniversary Edition. I, of course, enjoyed going back and playing that game, given that I enjoy going back and playing the original version anyway, and this is just a prettier version. It wasn't completely perfect and flawless, as we've probably said with pretty much all the games we've talked about today. There were like 1 or 2 like audio glitches and stuff like that, but what I was really pleasantly surprised by was that they added additional content. I didn't think they would do that. I thought they would just make it look nice, remaster the soundtrack, which they did do, and that would be it. But they threw in a bunch of cosmetic items. They did a really extensive gallery and behind the scenes of some crazy amount of kind of additional material. So not just concept art and that kind of thing, but they showed deleted levels, like video footage of deleted areas and things that never made it in, little Easter eggs, stuff from early builds we've never seen before. They even had some like camcorder footage of when the studio flooded during development of the original game. Like, you know, they've been in touch with probably every member of the team and said, what have you got on your hard drive? Can we put it in our game? So that was great. But then more to the point, they gave us hope or false hope that something might be happening with the upcoming prequel by adding in a whole sort of extra treasure hunt mission that tied in with some of the characters we've seen in the teaser trailer. So to actually throw in extra treasure chests and items and cutscenes, and then a big special reward at the end where there's like more voice acting and dialogue and stuff like that. You know, it was far more than I expected, basically. I think that's why I enjoyed this so much. It wasn't just an opportunity to replay a game that I love in crisp 4K 60 FPS, but it was a bit of a love letter, I guess, to the game, and to have all that extra content was a real treat that I didn't expect.
Nice. Well, my number 3 is a late entry. It's Indiana Jones and the Great Search.
I'm so glad that you've played this too, because I wanted to talk about this today. But when Ben was like, I'm not going to be, I was like, who am I going to talk to this about?
We're talking about it.
We're talking about it
right now.
Because this is also Ben's number 3 as well.
Excellent.
So we'll just smash this all together.
No spoilers. No spoilers. I want to... I want to play this game.
There won't be any spoilers.
I thought you were like about the list. Like,
that's
the next thing.
No,
I'm joking
I'm
about
saying, I don't want to hear too much, but I want to hear how good it is.
No spoilers for Ben's number 3. But yeah, it's wow. So first of all, I've not finished it because I tried my hardest to finish it over Christmas. It was my Christmas game, and it didn't quite make.
What location are you at?
I'm at the 3rd main location. That's as vague as we can get it.
You can describe
we know what.
Describe the biome if you like. I don't mind.
Snowy.
Oh, because you're at the snowy one.
Snowy.
Okay,
yes.
I'm just past the snowy bit.
Oh, okay.
I've left the snowy bit.
Cool.
Yeah.
I kind of assumed it would be like, a free act sort of thing, free main sort of hub areas. Maybe it's more. But yeah, I mean, just in general, I mean, honestly, it's one of those weird things where it seems like it's familiar, but the way they've blended certain gameplay styles and systems, it feels not quite anything that we've seen before, where it's like, you've got immersive sim elements, but it's also like a first-person action sort of stealth game.
It's got like Hitman vibes.
Strong Hitman vibes, yes. Yeah, really good shout, because you can
change your outfit.
And
nice.
get into certain areas. And it just it's how it sort of blends it all together that makes you think like, okay, this is weird that they've picked out. They could have gone the obvious route, and make it a bit like Uncharted, because obviously Uncharted was the original swashbuckling, tomb raiding.
Yeah, he was the first one.
Yeah.
No one had ever raided tombs before Nathan Drake.
Especially not women.
No.
Women can't raid tombs.
Yeah, and it's definitely not all, related back to certain films. But yeah, this somehow like picks out like the unexpected thing. It's not like action packed. It's not like linear sort of narrative thing. It's more sort of I suppose like open areas. Yeah. Not fully open world, but and then just really well designed open areas as well, where like there are so many secrets to uncover.
I got a little bit lost over and over again in the first area.
Yeah, first area, same. Yeah.
I couldn't figure out how to get to certain doors and places.
I quite liked
other
that.
ways. I did like.
It's infuriating when you're trying to get to a point.
But after a while, I was like, I need to get here, but I don't. I can't find the doorway to get in. I'm baffled by what's happening. But the second area, I preferred the exploration in the second area a lot more than the first area.
Yeah.
Because there weren't as many flipping doors.
It's a bit simpler and like not some weird like, oh, you got to go into this building and up there and then around the corner. But then once I sort of figured that out, I love like games that do that and have that sort of that element of like level design where you found a shortcut here. Give me a shortcut, like a door that can only be opened to one
and
side.
like finding like the keys
And
and stuff
then-
that would help you get to other areas.
It's like crack.
Yeah.
And it's it's amazing. So like, and other elements as well. You know, like the story's so well done. So like, as I was saying, like the it feels like it captured the archaeologist element and the solving mysteries, and it almost picks out the points in the films where you don't see as much, but you feel like a real, almost like a detective, really. On the S1, archaeologist is a detective of history. But you're finding all these cool things. The puzzles are so clever. They're like integrated into the world so well, so it feels like they're physically there. And
I like that you can also get like hints and stuff from like taking pictures of stuff. If you,
but it's on your own terms, isn't it? It's not
Yeah.
like there's constantly, you know, I know it's a bit of a meme now of like companions and stuff in games.
The
but
moment you walk into
yeah,
the
it's
room.
like, oh, you haven't figured it out yet, idiot.
You say that,
Is that one?
but the companion who spends a bit of time with you,
I think you do
on
get-
one of the puzzles, she
what you're
kept
gonna say.
going, what about that liver? And I was like, what are you talking? What are you talking about?
It's not completely devoid
I
of that
can't
situation.
find the thing that you were talking. I'm looking for ages, and it turns out I was stood in front of it,
Yeah.
and she was stood next to me, and I was like, "What are you looking at?" And it was behind me, and I was like, "Oh, for crying out loud, woman!"
The immersive first person element is like,
Yeah.
come
Oh,
back to
she
bite you in the arse,
doesn't half wind me up. I'm like trying to look at stuff. I'm like reading a note that I've found, and she's going, Look where I'm pointing.
I had that
Look.
moment once as well.
Hey,
yeah.
Dr. Jones.
Hey, listen.
Look. And I'm like, can you give me a minute? Can you
Yeah, I'm
get off
trying
my back, woman?
I'm trying to find these things that I might not be able to come back for.
Yes.
And
I don't think this
Jesus.
area is going to be returnable to, so I am just going to pick up this note and read it if you would be so kind in letting me do that.
days. Yeah, it's so good. But yeah, like the characters and story are perfectly like captured in
Oh my
Indiana
God,
Jones.
he
Like,
is
props to Troy
incredible
Baker.
His
as
voice
Indiana
props
Jones.
to
is
him,
mental.
Like
that
the
he
fact
can
that
do.
We all
it's
doubted
not
him.
not Harrison Ford is so surprising. Like
Yeah.
he's so sounds like him, even in just like the little like grumpy like humps and
Yeah.
like
The mannerisms
Yeah.
and everything, yeah. And like even
It's really
I think
good.
maybe when he shouts, it's maybe noticeable sometimes, but even then it's like, yeah, with his under the breath being like, oh god damn it.
Yeah.
It's
Grumble, grumble,
really
grumble.
grumpy.
Yeah.
Really grumpy bastard.
I have noticed, and I was going to ask you about this, but I actually think you've just got to the point where I started to notice it more.
Yeah.
I think the second half of the game is slightly less polished, and I've been encountering more issues in the second half of the game than I did kind of
Yeah.
up to the point where you're at now. I had one instance where like
Yeah.
there's a cutscene where this isn't really spoilers, but they fall through some ice, and she fell, and like you heard the crashing sound, and Indiana Jones was just stood there like looking at the camera like, and then just slowly fades down, and I was like, oh, whoops,
Amazing.
okay. But yeah, I've noticed that maybe the second half hasn't been quite so polished, and
Couple of
I would say like,
bugs
or
in
maybe it's like because I'm cloud streaming it from my PC because
yeah,
I haven't
yeah.
got an Xbox and it will not run on my computer. It's too big. But I've noticed a few
Great shout
times
for
I was
cloud
thinking
streaming,
maybe if it's it works really well on
Yeah,
cloud
yeah.
streaming. But I thought maybe that's the issue. But I actually think maybe there's a few bugs in game that I have found, especially in the latter half of the game, that I'm like
bug free, but I found like the combat with the enemies, like again, like the combat's simple, but I do love like it's nice that it's simple, and I love the thwacks, but like the enemies are just a bit sort of weird sometimes.
I
They
don't
act a
love
bit strange,
the
but yeah.
combat that much. Like it's mostly just punching people. But
Yeah.
I find the issue with like the
very
stealth,
basic,
specifically if you have an item and you sneak up behind someone, you can hit them and knock them out.
Bonk.
However, I don't feel like it always works. Like
Oh,
you're
right.
crawling up behind someone, and sometimes he'll do like a specific animation that knocks them out in one foul swoop, and sometimes he'll just hit him and you have to fight them anyway. And I found that happens quite a lot, and I've never
had anything like that.
I'm not quite sure. Like,
But sometimes sometimes I mess up the stealth.
well, yeah, like messing up the stealth is one thing. Like if they turn around, they see me, that's fair game. But like I will walk up to someone with an item, and like it will make the thing of like if you hit them now, you're going to hit them. Yeah. But then like I'll just kind of smack them on the head, and they'll be like, hey, rather than getting knocked out. But I think it's a really good game. Like it looks really good as well, and the voice acting is incredible, and the story is really interesting as well. And I'm excited to see like where it's going. I always forget that like Indiana Jones is kind of that mystical, like actually like things are supernatural.
Yeah, it always starts off like, oh, this is kind of reasonable, and then it gets a little bit more into like mythological.
Because I forgot that like that's how Indiana Jones is.
Yeah, and then next time he goes on an adventure, he's really cynical. Like someone say, oh, you know that treasure's cursed? He's like, oh yeah.
Yeah,
curse.
And it's like,
you saw ghosts last year.
Yeah, you travelled to the future.
Yeah.
No, it's funny, but Indiana Jones is good, and I'm excited to keep playing more. I'm just hopeful that maybe now I'm in the next kind of area. Yeah. Maybe the bugs that I was encountered, specifically in the snowy area.
That's gonna be fun then.
Yeah.
But, fantastic work. And as we said, that was Ben's number 3 as well. Number 2.
Number 2, as voted for by the patrons, and I think this is crazy. This is at number 2.
Number 2 is high point for this.
Is Thank Goodness You're Here. Is it number 2?
Yeah,
love that.
Madness.
I think it's partially like our fault for so long. This channel's like brand of British humour has probably corrupted a lot of the viewers. So I think that's probably why.
What did they have to say about it, James?
Connor Bennett said it was the exact I was the exact demographic for the humour, so I had a great time with this. Dragged a little in the second hour, but the ending might be the best part.
Eden and Pops say perfect British humour and a quirky little gem.
Dylan Barker said fantastic experience, no notes.
And Danny Boyer said made me laugh out loud repeatedly. I know Ben compared it to the Mighty Boosh humour-wise, but I would compare it to better British humour, like, to better British humour, i.e. Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, Snuffbox, Look Around You, etc. Look Around You is fantastic. I've never played a game that represents the silly and sublime of British alternative comedy until now, and I loved every minute of it.
I like that comment because the one bit of surreal British humour that I'm not that keen on is Mighty Boosh, but I do like Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, Look Around You. I've never seen Snuffbox, but and I've been wanting to play this. And I'm like, is it actually going to be? Is it going to be like Mighty Boosh when I play it? And am I not going to get it?
Yeah, you need like a sort of barometer for what kind of
because there are different kinds.
Well, I've never seen any of them, and I enjoyed it.
Good.
I do agree with Connor that definitely like the second half, you were kind of like, all right.
There's a bit of backtracking, isn't
You're
there?
a bit of backtracking, and sometimes you can get a bit confused, like which way you're supposed to go.
Yeah, because
just a little bit because it's so weird, and you're like, what am I actually doing right now? And because it's because it's all like 2D, like comic strip type situations. Sometimes you're like, oh, there's an exit that I can't see properly because it's at the screen level. But it is a great game. It has a lot going for it, and I think it's really like special in what it does. Like it's not anything else that you can really compare it to.
It's almost like the traditional like adventure games, like the point and click adventures with the weird, like sometimes there's an obscure solution to like getting something fixed.
So, it is very point and click adventure. That's a really good way of like a lot of
the pointing and clicking.
Well, a lot of the like kind of mini games or bits and things that you have to do are very much like you could totally see it as like a static thing where you click here and he goes and picks up the tiny Tim's meat pies or whatever they were called. No, that's a really good actually.
Secret of Monkey Island vibes.
Shall I go first with my number 2?
Sure.
I've not yet had the pleasure of going first.
Sorry, Peter.
No, that's okay. My number 2, we have just talked about it, is Star Wars Outlaws. I have been playing it a lot over, where I've been able to over the Christmas break because I have been away. But this is not a spoiler. it's unsurprising. You can go to Tatooine, and
No,
what?
they never go to Tatooine.
Big
in
shock.
Star
We
Wars.
never ever go back to
You actually
Tatooine.
spend
That's crazy.
so much time on Tatooine.
Oh, okay.
And I'm pleased about that because
For this saying.
yeah, well, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I've never been mad about them going back to Tatooine repeatedly in films and TV series, but certainly in this game, I've always loved Tatooine as a setting, and I had a good time in Kajimi and the other place, whatever it was called. But now I'm on Tatooine, I may just never leave. I'm just going to stay here.
To be honest, I think I spent most of my time on Tatooine.
It's so fun to be able to explore a setting that, you know, you are so familiar with in a lot of ways because we have been exposed to it a lot. But from this new perspective, you know, there's no mystical magic powers going on. There's no
Akiva, that's the other planet.
Akiva, indeed. There's no Jedi or the Force, or well, maybe there might be a little, you know, bit of it here and there in some side mission I've not done yet. But you know, you're just running around, scuffling, trying to survive, as you say, Ashton. I've always, my favorite specific location in all of Star Wars has always been Jabba's palace, and it's fun to be able to just go and hang out there. When you first get there, you're like kind of sneaking around inside, and I walked around a corner and one of those pig guards was there, a Gamorrean guard, and I was like, oh, cool. And I tried to stun him, and it was the first enemy I encountered where
You can't stun him,
like
it's
the
too
heavy
big.
enemies, they get stunned on their feet, but they don't fall down. And I had to like react in the moment. I was like, oh my God. And I've like ran up to him and punched him in the face and knocked him out. And I really like that energy of the game, is that like you do constantly feel like you're just like scuffling and like just trying to improvising all the time.
Barely getting through, like
using your momentum all the time. Like whenever I'm in a gunfight, I've got it set on like story mode or whatever, because that's how I play everything nowadays. I'm just like constantly diving into cover and then just sprinting around, like tanking shots, which probably not the way it's intended to be played, but I'm really enjoying just the constant like. I'm always on a tiny bit of health, and then I make it through, and I'm not getting a lot of game overs. And occasionally I'll be doing a platforming puzzle, and I'll be like, where the hell do I go right now? And there's like some tiny ledge I can't see. Or I did one the other day where I was like, I could quite clearly see I'm on this platform and I need to jump over to that platform, but there's a massive fan blowing air. And if I jump into it, it's going to launch me across the room and kill me. I was like, how do I turn it off? I was looking everywhere. I was trying to send Nix to various places, and I couldn't see. And then eventually I realized through the like wind effect, there was a tiny little, like, there's these destructible rocks that you can blow up.
Well, that was my
levers behind
biggest problem with the game, was that there's this destructible rocks that are orange. However, it never tells you that you can destroy the big rocks that are orange. So I kept waiting to like get a bit of equipment to like be able to destroy it, because I just never realized that, the big bomb like blast shot that you can do will destroy them. And then when I accidentally discovered that, because I think probably around the same point, I was like, are you joking? I have been leaving so many things to come back to later, because I thought there's no way I can do this now. And I was like,
I knew about the destructible rocks, but I just couldn't see it through the wind effect. And eventually I was like, oh, for God's sake. So yeah, there's a few moments like that. But for the most part, I'm really enjoying it. And now I'm on my favorite planet, hanging out with my favorite people in one of my favorite eras of Star Wars. I'm just like a kid in a candy shop. Like
I knew that you were going to enjoy it once you got in, like, because you kept leaving that portal from outside. And I was like, when you get into it, you're going to get into it.
And I could have got to Tatooine sooner, but your robot friend says, I recommend you go to Kajimi first. And I was like, okay, I did.
Probably doing that intentionally because I know everyone's going to ask,
I
know you'll want to go to... We've done
robot.
other parts of the game.
Sexy robot, yeah.
Okay.
I've been a bit distracted so far by the main quest and a few side quests on Tatooine, but I'm looking forward to when I get a moment to actually just take a breather and explore. I just want to go and find like movie locations, like, you know, I know
there's quite a few bits where I'm like, I've seen this in the movie.
Yeah, I think Luke's house is there, and I imagine maybe I might be able to find Obi-Wan's hut. That would be cool, maybe.
I don't know, actually.
I don't know, it might not be in there, but I'm looking forward to all of that. So cool. I'm really, I'm in my happy place now, and I'm having so much fun.
Nice.
You'll go next, James.
Yeah, I'll go next. My number 2 was unexpected. Metaphor Refantasio. My second, I've put well over 100 hours into this.
Wow,
And
have you?
Yeah, it's a long game because it's an Atlas game. Same guys make Persona.
I didn't realize you were playing it.
I know.
You kept that on the down low.
I did, yeah.
Or 100
because I
hours
didn't
just
know.
over Christmas.
Yeah, it's been a busy Christmas.
I haven't
oh my
spoken
God.
to anyone all
I haven't
Christmas.
slept.
Didn't see the family.
Just did this.
Oh no, I've got to get this finished. But yeah, it's just because I thought I mentioned it briefly to Ben because I know he plays Persona, but then I didn't think anyone else was playing it, so I just didn't mention it. But yeah, it's oh my God, it's fantastic. Like I wouldn't even have played it because I haven't played any like Persona games apart from a little bit of 4, bounced off of that. And if it weren't for peer pressure through online social media, not even anybody like pressuring me, but I just saw a lot of hype about it, and I just thought, you know what, I'll give that a go. It's been a while. I used to like the classic, Final Fantasy X, Final Fantasy 12, all that sort of thing. The classic JRPGs, and it was really nice. It was really nice to like get back into that sort of vibe, and there are familiar aspects, but the way they've modernized it is so good. I mean, first of all, the story and the world is impeccable. The art style is gorgeous, but you expect that from the guys from Persona. They make a menu look gorgeous. It's ridiculous. But yeah, like the world building. So it's like fantasy land, but you've got like some familiar fantasy sort of tropes, but a lot of things are completely different. Where you've got different like tribes of people with just slightly different physical characteristics. Some might have horns, some might have like wings that they can't use, but they're just there for show sort of thing. And with that, a lot of, unfortunately, strife and conflict between them, a lot of xenophobia. And, the story tackles that. It tackles, politics, weirdly, because it's, as mentioned before, the kingdom has fallen and the king didn't have an heir that was able to take on. So it basically becomes like an election campaign. It becomes like, hey, let's try democracy in a fantasy world. But then it also becomes a popularity contest, and you have a lot of elements that are, I think, why people really resonated with this, because some, certain world events recently, and certainly the trends have leaned more towards populism and, certain leaders being popular about things, promising this whilst also being kind of obviously not great. And that similar story here. So there's a lot of, things, but it has that sort of optimistic story, narrative throughout, and it's really nice. And I've not quite finished this one either, believe it or not, because it's one of those where I wasn't intended to do a lot of the side quests, but I was so hooked with the combat and everything as well. Everything links in so well, and like the combat, if it's similar, I assume it's kind of similar to Persona in a way, but you have these different archetypes, and each of your characters can like unlock as many as you want, and the way it sort of ties that in with the characters, so their version of like social links, I think it's called in Persona again, where you're trying to be best friends with everybody, but the more best friends you are with each person, you unlock like more features and more gameplay elements, more archetypes. And that blends into that. And there are different ways, that the team of 4 can be set up with a composition and do different moves. And it's like, I spend a lot of time like trying to work out, because I love that. That is my jam, like just trying to work out, what's the best composition for this. And yeah, I thought that was very clever. All of these things. And it makes you want to get to know the characters more from a gameplay perspective. And then they also have very nice stories, and they're also very, very nice characters. So, one last thing, like good quality of life stuff as well. So like you think about like classic JRPGs, it's like grinding through like dungeons to grind up your level. It does some very clever things here, where it's sort of like real time combat mixed in with the turn based stuff. So if you are a little bit stronger than everyone else, than certain enemies, you just beat them up with one hit. And you just get the XP, and you can just blast through that as much as you want, or you can still face them in like a turn-based battle, and other stuff as well. Being able to teleport to certain handy places, it's wonderful. It's such a journey. It's so worth trying, even if you maybe, because it's not even that. If the anime-ness of it, if that makes sense, puts some people off. I'm not a huge, I don't mind anime, but I'm not like a huge anime guy. It's there's a lot more, and the story gets quite dark as well in places. So it's well worth checking out. Fully recommend. Thoroughly recommend.
My number 2. Kieran's a bit of a surprise to me. When I was like ranking all the games, I was kind of like, do you know what? Actually, this one is a lot higher than I thought because it's so good from beginning to end. Is Still Wakes the Deep, the horror game set on the oil rig. Firstly, the spookiest location you could possibly put someone on. I'm sorry, I'm stuck on a big metal thing in the middle of the sea where the only way I could get off is by boat. Horrifying.
Yeah. Even in the light of day, you know, with all your friends around you.
Nothing was happening.
I'd
would still be horrible. But it's so good. Like, you've got these just so Scottish people. They could not be more Scottish if they tried. But like, the horror side of it is so good. It's like the whole like rig obviously creaks and rumbles and noises are made. So aside from the actual horrible monsters that are chasing you around, you also just have this haunting atmosphere that is just makes you feel tense just immediately and never lets you like unclench for the entire runtime. I know that I am a bit of a scaredy cat when it comes to like shouting at games and screaming when things make me jump, but these monsters genuinely shivered my timbers. Like they're horrible.
That's a stream clip you showed us a while back, wasn't it? Yeah.
Like even from like just the perspective of their visuals, they are horrible. They're these big fleshy mounds of like goo with like parts of bodies sticking out. Some of them have legs and their torso's just a mound of flesh. Some of them have arms and are like pulling themselves along the floor.
Yeah.
One of them is just a massive head that's like got loads of like tentacles crawling along.
For freaky horror creatures.
Eldritch horrible.
Yeah. Actually, Metaphor had some pretty messed up enemies as well, surprisingly.
Yeah. But Still Wakes the Deep is just brilliant. Like, it has some of these moments of like peace where you are kind of safe for a moment and there's this really beautiful music playing and visually gorgeous things to look at. And then the second that moment is ended, it's like, and now this horrible creature is right up your ass and he's coming for you. And it's like, uh-oh, let me get out of here. And it's just a really brilliant horror game. And I was like blown away by how much I enjoyed it because it is, like I say, horrible, terrifying in the best way. And I do love a horror game just on its own, but that one was just so brutal because you just knew that there was literally nothing you could do. You couldn't kill these monsters. You couldn't get out of the situation. Every time you try and leave, something happens. Like, it's just so good. And some of the characters that you meet along the way are really compelling and you don't want anything bad to happen to them, but you know full well everyone's stuck on an oil rig with a man who crawls around on the floor and just wants to kill you. It's a really good game. Horrible. Terrible. Great.
Good game. Horrible.
10 out of 10. Yeah. No, Still Wakes the Deep's really good.
Nice.
And Ben's number 2, Peter.
Yes, we have talked about it already, but it was Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I was intrigued where Ben would place this because he seems to have had not quite a love-hate relationship with it, but you know, it's. I don't think it was quite as wonderful for him as he hoped it would be.
I think he feels the same way that a lot of people.
Just a lot of it.
But I think he felt the same way that a lot of people who like. Even though we talked about today, felt in that like it was quite bloated, and you know you're in this thing where you're being hunted down by like the army, the most powerful force in the world, and you're just like taking a cruise ship or like hanging out on a holiday island, or like some of the pacing was a bit weird because we've talked before about like open world games. Sometimes you can struggle a bit with the pacing because it's like the world is going to end now, but also like why not faff about and like go and do other stuff as well.
There's 1,000 minigames.
So I feel like maybe he felt a little bit like that, which is weird. But I am almost surprised that he put it at number 2. I was expecting it to maybe be a little bit lower.
Me too.
Wish he was here to give me his justification. We'll ask
imagine,
next week.
yeah, like
Yeah.
his deep love for Final Fantasy VII.
Well, I
has
imagine that's
pulled
probably
him through
yeah.
there,
Yeah, well, as Chip
It's like-
Thompson's thumb said, I
yeah.
had some big issues with tedious side quests and inflated runtime, but it's a new Final Fantasy VII game. It couldn't not be in my top games of the year. It was
That's
probably reflects Ben, I
Close,
imagine.
isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now it's time for our number one game of the year.
You're not going to believe
You're not going to believe it.
It's-
We've all put the same thing.
Yeah, all four of us,
All four of us
and the patrons.
And the patrons have all put the same thing.
Which
Have
makes
you,
the discussion easier.
have you figured out what it is yet by process of elimination, viewers and listeners?
It is
If you haven't-
Astrobot.
Mhm.
Do. Astrobot. The song sounds like that song from Muse. It's Starlight. Do.
It does sound like that.
Yeah, it does.
Song. I've never
I
noticed that
credit
before.
to I can't remember who it was, but someone in my stream said
Yeah.
it. I was like, yeah.
Yeah. But we all put Astrobot.
We did. We had a
All of
great
us,
time
every
with
single
it.
one of us.
We're all Sony
It also
shills.
got like 31% of the votes in the poll. For context, number two being, thank goodness you're here, got 11% of the votes. So
Yeah.
this, that little guy has absolutely run away with it.
And as we said,
Smashed it.
you know, when we were talking about Game of the Year, at the Game Awards, this is a game that had a relatively limited audience pool in that it was an exclusive to PS5.
Yeah.
And all right, there are a lot of PS5s out there, but some people only have a
And-
Switch or only have an Xbox.
Yeah.
And a platformer. I think a lot of people probably tried it out just based on the wave of hype and word of mouth. You know, people that wouldn't usually. So,
Yeah.
Should we tell you what the patrons thought?
Yes. Celine Sonata, if I'm still saying that right or wrong, says, returns me right to my childhood, proving that the simple joy of jumping on platforms as a cute little mascot is timeless.
Connor Bennett said, it's the ultimate reminder that at the end of the day, games can just be fun. It's something Nintendo mastered over the decades, and this is the closest any other company has gotten to nailing that Nintendo feel in a platformer, an utter delight from start to finish.
Mashby says, such a charming, fun experience. This game feels like an instant classic and reminds me of the experiences that first got me into video games.
Chris McVeigh says, I haven't had an experience so plainly joyful in a long time. As someone raised on a diet of 3D platformers, this is exactly what I thought video games would look like in the future, and that feeling never wore off for me.
Got Mario for dinner. Liam Yates said, it was such a joy to play and see the visuals and listen to the music. Seeing all the PlayStation Legacy characters was wonderful, even the characters I wasn't entirely sure of. They got another chance to live on. How could you not like that? I think I had tears of joy in my eyes playing the Horizon and Uncharted levels. My muscle memory kicked in and I started playing it like it was Horizon for a minute.
Gregors25 says, best non-Mario 3D platformer potentially ever. Banjo-Kazooie would like a word. But yes, absolute joy from start to finish.
Jacko1312 said, the most fun I've had with a new 3D platformer in over a decade.
And lastly, Cameron J. Keywood said, a brilliant love letter to Sony and the best platformer in years. I don't think it's unfair to say that we all feel the exact same way as a lot
That's a
of
good summary, really.
the patrons.
It's all right.
Yeah,
It's all right.
It's quite good.
Bang average, really.
I ran out of time translating my notes from my phone to this, so I just put just pure fun
Yeah.
written down, which is, I mean, it is. It's just pure fun, distilled, undistilled? I don't know.
Yeah, distilled.
Filtered.
Yeah.
Unadulterated.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, I think
Yeah.
the thing about Astrobot that is so great is that it's not like, I feel like of recent years, a lot of like the best games of the year have been something that like, and I'm not saying this is detracting from any of this situation, but like emotionally heavy or intense to play or
Quite
like
long, yeah.
make you have
Narrative
like
heavy.
narrative heavy. Feel like you have a lot on your plate when it comes to it. Like Elden Ring is obviously a brilliant game, but it's not exactly I would say a joyful experience. You're raging
I
out.
love
getting
dying
your ass
repeatedly.
kicked. Yeah.
Last of Us Part 2 was a lot of people's game of the year.
Love that game. It
yeah.
makes me feel so much joy.
I mean, Baldur's Gate was a joy in a lot of places, but also very heavy as well and
Absolutely.
very long.
Yeah, I think this is the thing. Like Astrobot is inherently at its base level a fun game.
Yeah.
And like you don't have to think too much. You're just using you're just running around as that little robot with a little jetpack on your back to get you up higher because it's puffing out water to lift you up.
Yeah.
Like it's just
Yeah.
good and fun.
It keeps you surprised every time. Like the amount of good ideas that keeps popping up, and it constantly feels like you're getting surprised with this new mechanic, and you're learning it, and it's super fun. And then, oh my god, there's another fresh surprise, and it's so. Yeah, such a delight.
The boss fights were really good. The levels or the moments with is it called Big Brother or something? Big Bot, the giant Iron Giant robot.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed those. There was some actually very impressive set pieces in it that you might compare to something more like
technically speaking,
a more serious game. Having one or two big scripted moments, which were a lot of fun. And I also think it's important to say that the game would probably stand on its own even without it being this Sony PlayStation love
I
letter.
agree with you.
I think the gameplay and just the visual spectacle of it and the music and all of that is, objectively really, really good. All right, maybe it would have had a more limited audience pool if it had just been, hey, there's a new mascot platformer coming out. It's got nothing to do with anything you're aware of, but here it is.
Well, I don't necessarily think that had you just been collecting regular little robots who maybe had different outfits on that weren't themed around characters, and if you just took away those kind of final levels that were PlayStation themed, I don't think the game would have been that much different. The only difference is
it wouldn't have been. It's just whether people would have.
Maybe.
Certain people might not have played it.
I guess
it helps with. It probably helped with just that widespread appeal. Because because
everyone's talking about it,
nostalgia and whatnot. I think that probably did help a bit. And you're right. I think maybe it would have. It's my only very small nitpick for it, really, because it is just fundamentally controls are fantastic. It's like the essence of Super Mario 64, which is one of my favorite games of all time. But obviously, it goes hard on the Sony thing. It's a bit we're playing PlayStation propaganda game now. But that's a very cynical take on it. It's lovely, and I don't even mind. The characters are really cool. I think the only thing where I thought it was a bit, and obviously, it's taken its inspiration from being a hardware demo game anyway, is the fact that it was the PS5 ship and you're collecting the parts again. And I think you're right, though. It could easily stand on its own without all of those things. And just incredible.
Yeah, I think the gameplay is great. It never felt boring. It never felt like a slog, apart from that one level where there was a crocodile. Oh no, it was a frog. It just kept killing me in the lava over and over.
On the lava.
I was driving me up the wall.
Oh, there was a lava level that I hated. I don't know.
One
with
of
the
the
water at the start.
Yeah.
God, I hate that.
I hated that level.
That was the worst.
But it was apart from that bit, I think it's just the gameplay's great. The music is so good.
It really
even in the
is.
levels where it's the Horizon level specifically jumps out to me because I had the music in that bit was so good. The Horizon Fin West theme, but done by Astrobot, was great. I had such a fun time in that level and listening to that music. It's just good. It's just a good game. And I don't feel like this year specifically, many of the games that we've brought along, even today, we've talked about this year, have been just 99% good. And maybe one little gripe because one level was hard. We've seen a lot.
Most of the games we talked about, we said, it wasn't perfect, but I really enjoyed it.
Here's what I would have done to improve it. Which is obviously there's always going to be that. You're always going to have things that you want to change. But I do feel looking back at the last year, I feel like Astrobot just changed in my mind, I was struggling a little bit with some of the games that were coming out and eking through various games and being this is fine. But I feel like Astrobot was definitely, and people have said it before, just ignites that little fun, this is why I like games.
Yeah, exactly,
this is what games are about, and
reminds
what's so
you the
fun.
joy of,
exactly.
As soon as I played it, I was I'm unless some crazy thing comes out of nowhere now, between now and the end of the year, this will be my number one game. And, I did not struggle to place it at number one when doing my list today. And I think even just the rest of my top five, I mean, I knew who the contenders were, but, it wasn't wasn't clear cut. Like, oh, and this was a really close second. This was a pretty close third.
Yeah, I feel the same.
You know, it's like there's a number one, and then the other games I liked. You know,
Yeah,
That's kind of how it
I
went.
think it's testament to like I was maybe gonna put Metaphor at
Ooh.
first place. It was testament to like how surprisingly good that has been for me. But also I think on there's no way like Astrobot can't go number one because I love like the platforming and just it was incredible. It was so incredible. And there were some surprises on my list, I suppose.
Yeah.
And everybody's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there we have it. Those are our top 5 and our patrons' top 5. But what are your top 5? Have we got it right in your eyes? Be nice about it. Be polite. Don't be rude. Just have a good time.
Please don't be rude.
It's just games, isn't it?
We've only just started the year.
But yeah, pop your top 5 down in the comments below. Let us know what you think. And Peter's going to tell you where you can find us.
You can find us at youtube.com/Team TripleJump and twitch.tv/Team TripleJump. Of course, we're streaming on Twitch for the most part, occasionally on YouTube on special occasions. And if you've got Amazon Prime, part of your bundle includes a Twitch sub at no extra cost. So you can redeem that against us and get all the benefits of being a subscriber.
Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky, on all of which we are Team TripleJump, however that occurs. And patreon.com/Team TripleJump if you would like to support us.
We also have a website, that's triplejut.mp, and you can now wishlist our video game, as we mentioned earlier, a short and easy
Secondly
URL.
most anticipated game by our
Indeed,
patron
yeah.
episode.
GTA 6 and goes
Actually tying with GTA 6,
Yes,
so
yes.
We've got that on the Steam page.
just as
we
good.
should-
Equally
do,
as
yeah.
anticipated as
Well,
GTA
that's a
6.
perfect, that's a
Yeah.
perfect, like...
And then in really small print, buy a TripleJump page.
Yeah.
Oh, don't know who those guys are. Yes, and you can follow the URL triplejut.mp/video game, and that should hopefully take you to the Steam page and allow you to wishlist it. And finally, please leave a 5-star review for this podcast on a platform of your choice, wherever you're
Something
listening.
to do with
Al Gore's and his rhythms, I believe. Yeah, well done. Thank you for reminding me.
Just enough time, James.
Oh, yeah.
For you to give us our
Remind
sponsor
us
again.
of the sponsor.
Nice there. Yes, of course. Today's sponsor was, of course, Astro Xbot.
Yeah, next year's game of the
Or
year.
I just realised it could have been renamed to Xtrobot, but that might be a bit too much.
could have
No,
been.
I think that's too loose.
Too far, too far.
Yeah. Of course, the platformer game that everybody's talking about from Microsoft, celebrating all the best trolls online.
Yes. There are so many of
fantastic.
you.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for listening / watching, and thank you for supporting us in all of 2024.
Yeah.
We hope that 2025 brings you everything you could possibly want and lots of games that you enjoy as well. All right.
Okay.
See you later, I guess.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.